a few things before I tell you the title of the lesson, or whatever this is. It's not really preaching lesson. It's just kind of something that God showed me. So, okay. We're going to talk about someone who was a tattletale, a person who made up stories, which is lied. He was spoiled, caused contentions, and he also was Daddy's favorite. Guess who it is? Joseph. Joseph. Joseph is his name. Favoritism was it was in the family history throughout the Bible. You see that Joseph was Jacob's favorite. Isaac loved Esau, and Jacob loved. Joseph was Jacob's favorite. Isaac was Esau's favorite, and Jacob favored Rachel. So that kind of goes through, which I'm glad don't do that now. I hope no one's your favorite. But usually it was the firstborn or something. But in Jacob's case, he just got messed out of the deal. Okay. So as we will see, this is a person who God gives great dreams, who God uses to save a nation, and who becomes a shining example of the Savior to come. The name of my lesson is Dream Big or Go Home. You see that on a lot of stuff. It says, you're going somewhere like Michigan or bust or something like that. And other one's like, go home, So Craig said to make sure you knew that I didn't want you to go home because of the title. So I said, okay, surely. Okay. But God didn't pass over Joseph just because of the things that he did or because he was spoiled. He didn't pass over him. He didn't pay attention to what he was, but instead of what he could be. And that's a lot like us. God looks at us and he sees us through, it's like your parents see you guys through a different mirror than everyone else. Their kids are always perfect and their grandchildren are always the prettiest, So that's what this is kind of like. God looked down at Joseph and he's seen that, yes, he made up stories and, elaborate stories, and he would lie to people, and then he would he would do all these things. He always caused contention between him and his brothers. The brothers didn't really like him. He was Daddy's favorite. They gave him a coat of many colors. But even though he had all these flaws, God didn't look at them and just overlook him because he had all these flaws. Because he knew where he was at, but he wasn't looking at where he's at. He's looking, and same with us. He's looking for where we're going to be. And so wherever you are, you should not stay there. The gospel and your Christian life should constantly be growing and moving forward. If you're standing still, you're basically going backwards. If you're standing still, you're backslid. So if we retreat or we just are determined to stay right here, then we're missing God, because God wants us to constantly be moving. Its grace is day by day. Okay. This is a person who God gave great dreams to. Not somebody ideally that you would just pick because no one believes a word he says, because he lies and makes up stories, right? But God gave him great dreams. Who God uses, he also uses him. He saves a nation. He becomes a shining example of the Savior to come. And God didn't pass over him just because of things he did or because he was spoiled. God didn't pay attention to who he was, but instead of what he could be. God doesn't care where our stories start, but he cares about how far you will let him take you. He doesn't not just care about where you're going to end. He wants to know, okay, you're here. How far are you going to let me stretch you? How far are you going to let me take you and use you and do these things? And so Joseph was one of the ones that said, okay, I'm going to go on with God. I'm going to let him stretch me and do what he wants to with me. Even as a boy, he was 17 when he had that first dream, around 17. And so he would come and brag to his brothers, and he would interpret it himself, or what it meant. And so it wasn't really the focus of the family about the dream or the interpretation, but it was their reaction to the interpretation that was wrong for the family, and or the way that the way that Joseph interpreted it and told them, "This is you. You're going to bow before me." So and they're like, "What?" Yeah, no, right. No. Most brothers and sisters wouldn't take that. I know, mine wouldn't. I just beat them up, make them eat dirt. Okay, we're going to go to Genesis 37, verse 2 through 4. I have an actual Bible, and I have a Bible on my tablet, and I have notes over here, just in case there is a system failure. I'm over-prepared. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report to them to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made him a tunic. Okay, so he didn't just make up stories about his brothers. He made them up about his wives, too. That would kind of tick you off, I mean, if his wives were out there and the boys were all out there in the field and they're working real hard, and then, Joseph comes running up, and he just wasn't, oh, here comes Daddy's favorite, He's wearing that ugly coat, And so, but Joseph didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve to have God give him the dreams and to be this person that he was. But God picked him, because God chooses the overlooked and the unlikely. And he chooses them to do great things. And that's what Joseph did. He did good things. God overlooked it. And so a lot of times we feel like, okay, nothing's happening. God's overlooking me. He's, passing by, kind of like in the storm, and they're like, "Oh, Jesus, Jesus, don't pass us by," because he, if you're not keeping attention and you're not doing the will of God, and you're not proceeding instead of preceding, then he might pass you by. If but he did not pass. He usually doesn't pass by the people that feel like they're all alone. The people that feel like they're not worthy, the most unlikely person is who he picks. And we've seen that throughout the Bible. Let's see. No matter how undeserving or unlikely it seems, God always keeps his promises. Others will remind us of our failures, our inadequacies, our sins, and try to keep us in a small box. Joseph never gave up. Genesis 37, 10 through 11. So Joseph didn't give up. Other people, the brothers probably beat him up and rubbed him in dirt. I don't know. But they weren't nice to him. And I'm sure that he felt like, I don't know. Sometimes kids will think, "Oh, I'm so special. I get dreams and visions, and I'm Daddy's favorite." And then sometimes, it's a curse on you. I get beat up, and I get, talked bad about and thrown in pits, and, so there's a upside and a downside for that. So this is the verse, Genesis 37, 10 through 11. So he told it to his father and his brothers, his dream. His father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come and bow down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. So he just kind of kept it. Like, I think that's like, everybody always says that, and Mary pondered all these things. She put them in her heart. She meditated. She thought upon them. She's seen so much, and she knew so much. And yes, she did know more than we did. She knew who she was carrying, but she pondered. And so this is kind of what he did. He kept the matter in mind. It was in the back of his mind. You know how you put something in the back of your mind? "Oh, I'm going to remember that later, Usually it's a bad thing, but but the focus here wasn't the dream, but their reaction to his interpretation when he told them that they were going to bow down. And so they didn't like that. And a lot of us would not like that either. Joseph was spoiled, definitely. But then his brothers got mad at him because he had two dreams and told them to him, and neither one of them were in their favor. And so he became betrayed by his brothers. He was sold. They wanted to get rid of him. But first, they beat him up. I'm sure they beat him up before they put him in a pit. You just don't throw someone in a pit without kicking him a little. And so, they kicked him while he was down and, all that. And they're like throwing dirt in his face. And they tore his pretty coat off. And they were like, let's get rid of this spoiled kid. And then we'll just tell Dad he died. Dad will believe anything. He's old, And so, we'll take this little robe here with some blood. We'll get some lamb's blood or something, and we'll stick it on there because he won't notice that the blood smells different. Yes, blood does have a smell. I'm a nurse. I can walk into some place and know someone's bleeding. But so animal blood smells different than human blood. So, he would have, but he's probably smart. He was smart enough, but he really did believe he was gone. But so they thought they were just going to leave him there, and he was going to die of thirst, hunger, the sun scorching down on him, no way out. They didn't give him a rope or say, hey, try to reach this and stick it just outside, But, and so he did that, and then they saw these travelers coming through. These they call them traders, which it's traders, like not traitors, I betrayed you, but traders, and they call them the Ishmaelites, I think is what they call them later on, or something like that. Oh, we'll read the scripture. And so then they saw Reuben, the oldest brother, looked, and he saw these people coming, and he was like, hey, why don't we make some money out of this deal? Why don't we sell him? And we still tell Daddy's dead, and we get some cash. And so it sounded good to them. They were like, yeah, okay, we'll share it. And so they were all for that. So he got betrayed, and then he was sold. And they didn't know where he was going to be going or anywhere. They knew they were headed to Egypt, but they didn't know what he was going to end up, But when you're betrayed, it's a devastating blow to endure. It feels like as if a piece of you has been ripped out. And if anyone's been through betrayal or anything like that, that's what it feels like. It feels like they've just taken a piece of you and yanked, like bit a big crunch out of you. But Joseph may have been a shadow of when Jesus endured his own betrayal. God doesn't give up on us or his promises or dreams he gives us. Even when the world gives up, he never will. A lot of times people will say, okay, yeah, you had this dream or this prophecy, and you're supposed to be, this, and this, whatever. Okay, well, I don't see it happening. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And they'll tell you, just give up, And, Job's wife even told him, just curse God and die, He's like, get it over with already, But a lot of times people will discourage us, and they'll try to keep us in this box. They give us so much faith. You get a little bit of faith in this little small box, and that's where you have to stay. So when you come out of your box or you refuse to be in the box, then that's when people get upset. And so then they do that to you. But God never will. God doesn't do that. He doesn't do that to us. He takes broken people, betrayed people, he takes spoiled people, and he takes favorites, and he takes all of those things, and he doesn't give up on them. So you may give up on a dream, but God has given you a dream, or he's given you a promise, and he's still saying, hey, this is going to happen. And sometimes I've heard that sometimes you may have a dream, and then it's not fulfilled in your lifetime, but through your generations. And so you can never give up on your dreams and the things that God shows you and tells you, no matter what other people say, because God never gives up on us. Genesis 37, verse 23 through 27. This is what I just talked to you about. So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they had stripped Joseph of his tunic and the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit. And the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing spices, balms, and myrrh on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, okay, it wasn't Reuben, it was Judah, sorry. Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh. And his brothers listened. And so basically then they got money out of the deal, and they were like, this is cool, we'll do this, and there won't be any blood on our hands, and so we won't be in trouble with God or Dad, and so let's do that and get some extra money. It's like mowing the lawn or something, and they were, if you notice, that he was in a pit without food or water, but yet they were eating a meal. And that's kind of cruel to eat in front of someone, like if you're on the Daniel's fast and then someone brings out a big old box of chocolates or something. I would never do that to anyone. You guys. And so Joseph had these dreams. They included his brothers and his family, but they didn't understand what the interpretation was, and neither did Joseph, I don't think. I don't think he fully understood. This means that there's going to be a famine, and this is going to happen, and and then you're going to come and get grain and all that. He didn't know all the details, because God's really good at keeping the details secret. It's like a need-to-know basis, It's like the military. If I tell you, I have to kill you. No, he doesn't do. But sometimes he keeps the paths secret, or he just gives you in part. It says that we prophesy in part, we see in part. And so they misinterpreted it. Did I have too many did-it-its on that? Okay. They misinterpreted it maybe. And then, so he didn't know the full weight of what was about to happen. And so he was probably feeling pretty betrayed. But it just so happened that Joseph ended up in Egypt and became a servant in Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh is the king of Egypt. It is not one person, but there are many pharaohs. Pharaoh is like a king or a president. There's different kings, but they're all called Pharaoh, or they're all called kings, or they're all called Mr. President. So that's the same way. This was Pharaoh, okay? And so the kids didn't know that Sunday, so I kind of told them that. And then I was like, yeah, Pharaoh is like king. And I said, what king do you think of? And they said, King Tut. And I was like, right, so okay. So they got it. But Pharaoh was impressed by Joseph, and he made him head of all the servants. Let's read Genesis 39, 1 through 4. I didn't give you all the scriptures because I wasn't sure if I'd read them in order or not. Sorry. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord, and that's capitalized in my thing, was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph found favor in the sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house and all that he had put under his authority. So even Pharaoh, even someone who was a pagan or worshiped different gods, looked and he's seen the blessings of God. Because a lot of times when you have dreams and you have visions, or you get prophecies, or you have something, when God gives you big dreams and big things, he also sends his blessings with it. And so he prospered and he was blessed. Everything he touched, was just awesome, and he was amazed, but he knew it came from God. And so that's awesome. I mean, because when you get those things and you have hurts, or you get betrayed or anything, and when you get stuff that people don't understand, but it comes along with blessings. Like it talks about how that we're supposed to we're going to be persecuted. Blessed are the people that are persecuted, and you're like, what? But blessings came, and so they got a lot of blessings. So the house of Pharaoh was blessed in all the areas because Joseph was in charge. Now, if Joseph was not in charge, it might have been different. And it probably was before he got there, because Pharaoh was very impressed with him. And so he put a lot of things under his authority. And so that's pretty big. I mean, he came from a little boy that got beat up and thrown in a pit to being in a king of Egypt, which was a very large area. And then not just to Egypt as a slave, but then he got to the palace, and then he was overseeing, and he knew he was a Hebrew. He knew that he was of God, from God, of Israel. And so I guess it's kind of like, they don't care if you're Christians, if they can just use you, I don't know. I'm just thinking that. But then things went a little south, because every time you have a dream or you have a prophecy, not every time, but a lot of times you'll have dreams, visions, and you tell people about them, and things, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, and God told me that I'm going to be this, or I'm going to do that. That's why I don't ever tell a lot of people stuff, because, but then bad things are going to come upon you, or things that might happen to you to make them think, yeah, that's right, I told you. But it's all for God's glory in the end, and they don't even know it. And so, you got to put yourself out there. Like I said, you have to be willing to go as far as God will stretch you. And so all through this, so far, we've not heard Joseph complain at all. He's not complaining. He's still trusting God. He still knows that he has dreams. And then when he gets blessed, because they come with blessings, then he blesses everyone around him. And a lot of times when people do get blessed, I know us, if we get blessed, we want to just start blessing anybody and everybody we can. We're sending it to Africa, to Pakistan, wherever. We're like, who can we give this to? That's why, the way we are the way we are. But so a lot of times when people are blessed, so that's what Pharaoh was doing. He was getting blessings because of Joseph, because God blessed Joseph and anything that he did. And so it was going just a little too well. And so he was put in prison. And y'all probably know why. Genesis 39, 16 through 20. Because Pharaoh's wife, it said in this little book I read once, and it said that that Joseph was a handsome man and that she liked him. So I was like, oh, okay. And so she was attracted to him. It's okay. I'm not going to say it. Never mind. Okay. Back then, it was different. They had many wives. The wives couldn't have many husbands. So she was bad. So she kept his garment. She came on to Joseph and tried to get him to come and go with her, and he didn't want to, and he knew that wasn't right, and he knew that God would not bless that. He'd be cursed, and it was dishonorable, and so he didn't. So then this is where we pick up. So she kept his garment with her until his master came home. Then she spoke to him with words like these, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you brought to us, it's just like Adam, that woman that you gave me. So she's saying the same thing. That Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came in to me to mock me. So it happened, as if I lifted my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled outside. So it was when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, your servant did to me after this manner, that his anger was aroused. Then Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there a prisoner. Well, he got thrown in jail for something he didn't do. Because with blessings, sometimes persecution comes. With dreams, with callings, with things on your life. God puts things on our lives, and then persecution might come, betrayals and things like that. And so this is what happened. Basically, she lied and said, this guy you put here, not me, you put him here. And came on to me and, just made up. And of course, he's going to believe his wife over a servant, especially one that's not an Egyptian. Sure. So he threw him in prison. And there was a lot of people in prison. And I don't understand the Egyptian prison system, but somehow he made way to the top of the prisoner group. I don't know. I don't know how to say that, but he grew and he became the overseer prisoner of all the other prisoners. So no matter where he was at, God blessed him. You know, because wherever Joseph was, because he never gave up on his dreams and he never let people pull him down or hold him down in that small box. But he was willing to go as far as God could stretch him. He was still blessed, even in the darkest place. He was blessed. So I don't know if they had stages of prisons or what, but he became one of the biggest prisoners. He's real popular, I guess. And so then he was bossing all the other prisoners around. I don't think it's like what we see on TV and hear and stuff, you know. I don't think they, you know, wrestled it out or anything, but that's how it was. So, but he put him in prison, and he was obedient to God and honorable despite of it. He gave honor to God, no matter how painful it was. He waited and was obedient, honorable, despite of it all. No matter how painful, God will see us through. And Joseph waited for help because, as we know, that the story, there was a baker and someone else. Was it a chef? No, I don't know. Butler, cupbearer, that's right. I have it right here. Cupbearer, and a baker. And they had dreams. And so Joseph interpreted the dreams. And he's told them, each one, he said, now if you ever get out, don't forget about me. And, you know, try to pull some strings and get me out of here. And so the cupbearer's like, yeah, okay, man, I will. And then the baker, he did the same thing. The cupbearer was going to be okay, but he prophesied bad to the baker that he was going to die. But he still promised that he would, if he got out of prison, that he would, you know, stick up for his friend there. And so Joseph waited. How many times have we waited and waited and waited? Because things happen and people are different, and God is just causing us to wait and wait, and we're like, what? You know, and then Stormy Ormus, how's her last name? Say Ormus or something. She has a book that I have, and it says, just enough light for the step I'm stepping on. So he doesn't always give us the whole picture. You know, he does in his word. We know the whole picture, but then he didn't know the whole picture. He just was getting a little bit of light that, you know, and the blessings that God was giving him. So he was treated probably pretty good in prison once he became head prisoner. I don't know. They didn't give him the keys though, but then the cupbearer, he got loose, or loosened, or set free. And so he waited and waited and waited, and cupbearer, nobody ever came for Joseph, so he waited. Then the baker went up. Well, he knew his prophecy. He was going to die, right? So he figured, I'm probably not going to be hearing from him. And so, but he had to wait. But God sees us through it. A lot of people in the Bible we see had to wait. Abraham, he had to wait for children. Job had to wait for an answer. And Israel was waiting for a home. And us, we are waiting for God to use us and to use us globally. And we are also searching for a home that we know not of. I mean, when Abraham and Sarah, God told them to get up and go to a city I will show you. He didn't show them on the map where it was at. It's Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know, he didn't say that. He said, go. So he just kept walking and walking and walking until God said, stop. He went as far as God could stretch him. And that's what we need to do, is go as far, dream big, or go home. And so we got to dream big. If you're going to dream, you might as well dream really big, right? I mean, you might as well think of the best and the most elaborate dream you can have. But if God gives you a dream, and no matter how small or how large it might be, then you need to run with that dream. And you need to let God take you to where those dreams can become true. And Let's read Genesis 39:16. No, we already read that. Sorry. Okay, but Joseph interpreted. So then, Joseph, I keep wanting to say Potiphar, Pharaoh, he had a dream, and he had all these different people come and try to interpret the dream, and so someone mentioned, hey, there's a guy down in the prison that interprets dreams, and told Baker he's going to die, and he did, so I guess he might be halfway right, so you might want to try him. And so Pharaoh says, okay, bring me Joseph. And so Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dream, and he liked it. He liked him again, because I don't know if this was even the same Pharaoh, but I'm thinking it was. Probably, right, Craig? Okay. But he interpreted the dream, and he liked what he had said and the ideas that he had told him. So God took him from his lowest place in his life, prison, and raised him into a position where his dreams could come true. Our darkest times could be the opportunity for God to shine. The one who gave you the dreams will be the one to help you make them come true. So if we trust in him, we don't give up, and we let him stretch us, even if it hurts, and we don't get angry at God. Joseph still has not said anything bad about God. He's not complaining. He's just telling people, hey, remember me, And we do that a lot. Hey, man, when you get rich, remember me. And they don't. If you become president, let me be your senator or whatever. But he took him from the darkest place, which was a persecution, which is maybe a place of training, not testing his faith, but a place where he knew that he needed to go to the deepest places in order to rise up to be able to fulfill that dream. But he put him in the place where his dream could come true. So God doesn't just give you a dream and then put you somewhere where your dreams can't come true. If he's put you here or somewhere else, and he's given you a dream, he's given you a vision, he's given you an idea, he's given you something that burns in your heart, he's given you the blessings, and you can see them come true. You just can't give up. Joseph never gave up, and that's they should have called him not Joseph the dreamer, but Joseph the stubborn. He never gave up. Poor guy. 17, he gets beat up, and then he goes to sold, and then he gets a good life, and then now he's in prison, and then now he gets a good life again. It's like up and down roller coaster, right? And so, but God was faithful to him, and he continued to bless him, and Joseph was faithful and honorable and obedient to God. And he was like, take me wherever you need me to be, because I want these dreams to be fulfilled. Now, you may have a dream that you've had since a child that you feel like God gave you about yourself or about someone or about a ministry or something that's, and so if there's something in you that God's given you, don't let it fade into the back part of your heart. Keep it fresh. Keep it in there and search God and say, put me in that place where this dream can come true. Put me in this place where that prophecy can come true. God, lead me and stretch me as far as you need to, so that I can be in the place that this can come true. And, that's pretty much what Joseph did. And so he interpreted it, and so the one that gives you the dreams, he'll be the one to help you come out of it. A lot of times people will say, you're inadequate, you're not equipped, you're not deserving enough, you lived too bad a life before. They say all kinds of things. They call you names. They laugh at you behind your back, things like that, just like Joseph's brothers. And they'll even lie to you. Things will come against you to keep you from getting to where your destination is, where you can best serve him, where your dreams and your things that God has told you will come true. So if you feel he's placed you, that's why a lot of people, you don't just pick a church. you go to a church and you feel like this is where I belong, this is where my dreams can come true. The dreams of God and His will, not dreams of being an NFL star. I mean, I'm not talking about that, but this is where I can teach. This is where I can learn. This is where I can go to school. This is where I can do this or that. I prophesy, heal the lame, heal the sick, all these things that God has promised us, but also special things that God has given to us. I like the song that we sing that talks about God has made me a promise and He won't stop now, because my God made me a promise. And that's, if you it's a song, I know, but if you listen to it, it's my God made me a promise, and He won't let you down. And so if He made you a promise that your kids are going to come home, then your kids are going to come home. Look at Josh. Yay, Josh. And a lot of us, right? Our mothers prayed for us, our grandmothers, and, I prayed for all my family, and so far I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Nicole. Sorry, don't tell her I forgot her. But, you got to pray, and you got to be on your knees also. So that's why you have to be faithful and obedient to do the things that God wants you to do, so you can receive those blessings and be in the position to have those dreams come true. Craig a lot of times says, if you want to do something for God, then just get in His way, so He'll use you. If you want to be used, then just jump in God's way. He's walking down, and you just, whoa, and He's like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, you can have your dream. Go away, But no, you have to get in the way. You have to actually be active. You can't just sit. You can't just hope. You can't just meditate or ponder it or, whatever it was that Jacob did. He kept it in his mind. We've got to voice it out. We've got to let God know that this is an agreement He's made with you. Kind of like not really a covenant, but it's something He promised, and He's not going to take back. And so if you don't see it, just keep working towards it. And that's by getting more involved in God and more involved with the church and more involved in the Bible, reading and praying and seeking God. Be repentant, be willing to go wherever, be willing to be taken anywhere, be willing to be scorned and persecuted and lied about. You just have to be ready for all those things, because that's what comes with the territory. But you also get blessings. So, we're persecuted, but we're blessed. And so it's kind of like one of those looking glasses, But, we have to remember, and we have to be actively seeking God and actively trying to make sure that we're in the place that God wants us to make that dream come true. If you're in the wrong place, or you're doing the wrong thing, or you're not doing what God has asked you or required of you, then your dreams won't come true. The dreams and visions and the things He's told you in your heart in secret prayer or in your prayer time, the things that He really, really desires for you, He's not just throwing them out willy-nilly. He gives you stuff because He knew you before you were even in your mother's womb. And so He knew what you were going to do. He knows, but you still have free will. And so He knew this. And so if He gives you something, you need to run with it. I think in Habakkuk, it talks, is it Habakkuk or somewhere like that, where it talks about, the things that you've heard, write them down and run with them. And so write things down that God's told you. My husband was very sweet and gave me a book, like a journal for Christmas. And he said, what I want you to do is write all the things God's promised to you. All the prophecies, all the promises, everything that God to remember and to bring to remembrance. Yeah, God told me this would happen. And yes, it happened. Or God told me this is going to happen. It's not happened yet, but I know it's going to happen. Or someone did this, or someone told me this. And so that's what, it's nice to write it down. Keep a record. Don't just write it down and put it on a shelf, as a lot of people will tell you. Just put it on a shelf and wait. You can't wait for your dreams to come true. You have to make them come true, right? You have to be aggressive. This is a constant, like I told you earlier, in order to be with God and to be not backslidden. You can't stand still. You can't sit still. You have to constantly be moving. So if he promised you something, then you have to constantly be reminding your spirit and reminding yourself that, hey, God said this, and I believe this come true. It hasn't yet, but I'm believing, and I'm going to go and do whatever God tells me to. And because he doesn't just pass it out to everyone. Some people don't have certain dreams or certain callings or things like that. But I think that pretty much everybody has a calling. One, we're all called to go and preach the gospel to the whole world, right? And tell them the good news. That is kind of like a mandate. We need to tell people, whether it's across the street next door or across the ocean or whatever, in a train, in a bus, in a whatever, anything, whatever it takes to get you there. And so you have to be vocal about it. You have to keep bringing it up and stirring it up and saying, God, I want this dream to happen. I want you to use me. I want you to help me. And I know you're going to stretch me. And I know I might end up in prison. Of course, you won't in prison, guys. But please don't. Don't start a prison ministry that way. Okay. So there's more than one way to start a prison ministry. Yeah. And yeah. But God has given you, when these dreams come true, he's given you a chance to let God shine through you. Because you can then say, God made me a promise. And he's not going to stop, and I'm not going to stop until I get to that dream, till I get to that prophecy, till I get to where all my kids are saved, when I get to where all my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and descendants and descendants and descendants will be blessed if you follow God and you do what God tells you to. But if you stand still, nothing happens. It's the same old thing, the same old, I used to say when I was little on the cartoon, come back on the same bat time, same bat channel for Batman. But it's basically, if you've done it this way all this time, a lot of people say, well, we've always done it this way. Is that a reason to not do it different? No, it's not, because God constantly did different things in the Bible. He would use one person and do this, and then he'd do this with someone else. He would let the persecution be really strong for some, and then other people seemed to have it kind of easy. I mean, God changed up and what he wanted him to do. I mean, Abraham, he had to wait for his son, had to circumcise everyone, had to put him on the altar, willing to burn him. That stretches you. If you take your child to an altar and you're going to offer him as a sacrifice, I think that's a pretty good stretch. That's really believing God and saying, okay, God, yikes, my only son, well, Ishmael was the son, his second son, but Isaac was the second. But God wants us to be, even if we're a tattletale, even if we make up stories, he wants to use us. Doesn't mean you can still lie and you can still make up stories and tattletale and do all that stuff. You have to stop that, of course. You guys know that. So stop it. Okay. So I told you. I'm like the kids. Stop it. So stop doing what you're not supposed to be doing and do what God tells you to do. And don't give up. You can't give up, okay? So when he went to Pharaoh, and then Pharaoh, in Genesis 41, verse 39 through 40, it says, Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you. Joseph became a really important person in the Bible. I mean, Joseph, he's the dreamer. But, he ought to be maybe he should be the obeyer, the one that let God stretch him. Maybe he should be Stretch Armstrong, like Stretch Joseph, or something. Just like people labeled Thomas as doubting. He believed. He just wanted to see. And so Joseph was like this. He believed. And so as he kept getting blessed and blessed and blessed in these places, then he'd become higher than everyone except for the king, or the Pharaoh, the king. And so you can do that too. Joseph goes on to become a great man and a patriarch in the genealogy and in the house of Israel and in the Bible. We hear of Joseph, Jacob, Isaac, Abraham. A lot of those names are used over and over in the Bible. And so he became a leader. Patriarch is someone who I would think someone who led people, and then you remember back, a matriarch is someone who paved the way, like Joan of Arc. She paved the way for people to be burned at the stake. No. She believed that God was speaking to her. And then now we went to France, and we were in Paris, and we went through the, what is that thing called? The Vatican? No. It was, what is it, Craig? We went through the castle. No, it was in France, in Paris, when we went through that. Or was that in England? No, that was France. Notre Dame, or Notre Dame, whatever. Notre Dame. And now they have candles that they light to her, because now all of a sudden they think, well, maybe she did hear from God. And so, a lot of times people might give up on you, but then later on they're like, that person was right. And then if someone stands by you and helps you achieve that dream and shares that burden with you, then them too are going to be blessed. And then they will also then have dreams. It says in the last days that we'll have dreams and visions for old men, young men, little kids, maid servants and men servants, and anybody, on all flesh. God's going to pour out on all flesh. So we're all going to be blessed, and we're all going to be dreamers and visionaries. And don't be afraid if God shows you something and it looks like it. Oh, I don't think I can do that. Trust him. Because one time, I used to be really, really shy. When I first married Craig, I was super shy. I didn't talk to anyone. I was afraid of his parents, because he kind of told me a little fib. He says, now my mom, when he first went to see his mom and dad, they don't believe in toenail polish or ear bobs. And I was like, what's ear bobs? He's like, earrings, And he had me scared to death, fingernail polish and stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so, but they weren't. But, he had me going, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so, but, you can count on God. It's going to come to pass. And if it's not from God, well, you're still working towards something, right? A lot of us know, and we ponder, or we take it and put it in the back of our mind. We know that God has told us something. Other people may not believe it. Other people may not think it's true, just like for Joan of Arc or any of the others, like Paul and Peter and them. They did miracles and wonders just like Jesus did. They didn't believe in Jesus. So if they're not going to believe in him and his dreams and his prophecies, why do you think that everybody's going to believe y'all? I mean, he ain't. A lot of people won't. And so we won't get away with as much as he did either. But we need to constantly be pulling that up out of our spirit. A lot of times we just push everything down. We'll just wait and see. You can wait. But you need to be pushing that up and rekindling that and saying, I am going to violently take this by force. This is what God promised me. You can count on God. Your dreams he's given you will come to pass. And don't stop believing, in the words of some song that I know. Don't stop believing. You have to constantly believe, and faith So what do we need to do? We need to pray more. We need to, of course, everyone always tells you that, right? Pray more, read more. And you're like, okay, how much do I do? And do I do it? I can't do it 24/7. I have a job, I have kids. But pray constantly in your head, constantly be meditating and searching your soul and searching and trying to pull out those dreams and saying, God, are you stretching me or have I stopped? Have I stopped allowing you to take me where you want me to go? Because Joseph, he said he wanted not to see where he started, but how far God would take him, how far he would let him take him. So how far are we going to let God take us? And so in your heart, you have to listen, you have to pray, and you have to decide in your heart. And I think it's a conscious decision. It's a decision that's not hard. It's just something that you know, that you do. And you have to just constantly be saying, God, just keep stretching me. And if you're not feeling stretched, maybe, I don't know, we need to stir some things up. But dreams don't come true if you don't tell people about them or you don't voice them to God. If you don't want to tell people, that's cool. But when you pray, say, God, you promised me this. God, you gave me this dream. And I was going to tell this story. I got sidetracked. But I was super shy when I first married Craig, and he had me all, but I was really shy. I didn't talk to people much or anything, really. You wouldn't believe that now, but now I know no stranger. I mean, the Walmart girl is my best friend by the time I get cashed out. So, but I was super shy, and I never said anything against, and I obeyed my husband. My grandmother didn't want obey in our vows, but they were. And but I was submissive to him, and then I was called a submissive dog. Someone told me, because I was supposed to meet Craig at a certain time, and I said, well, I got to go. Let's go meet the guys. And someone said, no, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep shopping. I'm going to keep doing this. And I said, well, I'm not. I'm going to meet them. Well, you can be the obedient dog if you want to. That's not what being submissive is. And so they had me all wrong. And I am old-fashioned, but still, it's the same way with God. We have to be submitted to him. It says that we submit ourselves to him and resist the devil, he'll flee. A lot of times people say, resist the devil and he'll flee. Say, Satan, go away. But you first have to submit to God. And you first have to submit to saying, yes, that's what you told me. This is what's going to happen. And if I have to put Post-it notes everywhere in my house, and I have to go through shouting it, and I write lipstick, use lipstick for my mirrors. But used to, you couldn't go anywhere in my house where there wasn't a Post-it saying, you are a new creature, or God has promised you this. I had a prophecy given to me that said, and I was shy, and said that I see you running around a building with a flag. And I was like, yeah, right. I would never do that, right? And so then I started going to these women retreats with Hetty Lou Brooks, and I went down there, and she had all these flags and stuff, and I don't know, and we went down and prayed for her church and the school and everything. Something came over a bunch of us, and we grabbed flags, and we were singing and running all over the building, and my eyes just were like, oh, I said that would never happen. But God made it happen even though I thought it wouldn't, And so he's going to use you however he can use you, and he's going to stretch you. And I thought at that time when I got prophesied that was, yeah, right, that's a stretch, right? You've heard people saying, that's a stretch. I don't think that'll happen. But God gave me boldness. God gives us boldness so we can accomplish the things he's told us he's going to do. And so when you have the boldness of God, the faith, the courage, the aggressiveness to just reach out and grab whatever it is that God has said about you, your family, your friends, your family's families, whatever, you have to violently and call out to God and say, you promised me, and I'm pulling them in, I'm pulling them in, I'm pulling them in, and I'm not going to be disobedient, I'm not going to be dishonored to you. I'm not going to say, well, I prayed for her, but she never got saved, so. No, you keep praying, You just got to keep on keeping on. And so I don't know how to explain it anymore. except for we need to let God stretch us. Be willing to be stretched. Be willing to voice and stir that up inside you and say, yes, God. Yes, God. Yes, God. Don't say no. Because you may say no when you're young or something, and then you say, when I get older, I'll do this, or when I get this or that, I'll do this, and then it comes to that time, and you don't do that. So when God speaks, you move, right? And so if he gives you something that's waiting, you're waiting, then you wait. But if he gives you something inside of you, like Joseph had dreams, so he had to go blab it to everybody. But you have to make them known. You have to believe in them. You have to know that no matter if the whole world is against you, God is for you. And that no matter what you're dreaming that could seem impossible for your personality, for anything, God will make it happen. And that was a simple thing, you know. But I was also, when I was a teenager, about 13, there was a guest speaker that came to my grandpa's church, and his name was I didn't know his first name, but his last name was King, and he was a really powerful preacher, and he did a revival for us. Well, I was shy, and so I was sitting in the chair, and he was prophesying over all these people and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I wish he'd prophesy over me. You know, and I was just kind of holding it in and saying, oh, God, you know, I'd like to be prophesied over. I ain't going up there. You know, well, a lot of us say that I ain't going up there. You know, but this is the place to come. This is where you do. And so he called me out. He did call me out. And he poured a whole bottle of anointing oil on my head. And he said I was like David. And he said that I would be a leader, not a follower. All my life I was a follower. I just did whatever I was told. I just did what I was supposed to, you know. I just got through school, you know. I just got through the classes, you know. I wasn't real engaged. And so when he told me that, I was like, yeah, I'm probably just going to be a Sunday school teacher, because I was doing Sunday school then at 13 with the little ones. And they would come up and sing songs. So I was kind of doing it, but my back was to everybody. So but I was not, no way could I be a leader. I thought, I hope, but no. And he said, you're going to be like David. And then years and years and years later, okay, I was 13, and then I married Craig, and we pastored this church. And he says, you want to preach? And I'm like, what? No. I said, you can do it. But he's like, no, do you have something? And so I had been reading and praying, and the word came to me. When God told David he was firmly established. And that's the sermon I preached. It was 7 minutes long. But I felt like that's what he was doing. He firmly establishes you. He doesn't just put you somewhere. He puts you in. He plants you. He just puts you in there. And so you're firmly in there. And so you're established, you're firmly planted, you're firmly established. So if God told you it, don't care what anyone else says, then you just do that. All right? Don't let those people, the naysayers, get you, because that'll get you down for sure. But Joseph didn't do that. He dreamed. He dreamed big. Abraham didn't do that. God gave him a vision and a dream. Look, he got one son. He didn't have kids. He waited on children. And then look what has happened. We're all here because of him. Right? Israel waited for their country, waited for a homeland. Now they have their own country. Look how long it took for the Israelites. I mean, to have Israel as their country, you know. It's awesome that God has done these things for everyone. So don't give up. So I don't have a whole lot more, but I was just, if you might be surprised, because you might not even notice that the dream or the prophecy is coming true, like I did when I was running around the church with the flag. And then afterwards, I come home, I was telling Craig, we got so excited, all this stuff happened. We were all running around the church with flags and stuff. He goes, huh. And he reminded me of that. So now I'm writing everything down, okay? Past and present and future. But he says, remember when I was like, Nuh-uh. Oh, man. Okay, so it was true. I did it without even knowing that I was fulfilling that prophecy. And now I'm a pastor's wife. We've been missionaries, and we've done children and teens and adults. We've done you all. We've done all ages and all peoples. God has sent us to all peoples, and he sent you to all peoples. And he promised us that our families would be saved, and they get saved. One by one, the prodigals come in. One by one. Josh is an answer to prayer, isn't he? He's an answer to Richie and Anna's prayers. They have prayed and prayed and prayed. Walt and Richie are answer to my prayers. Mom. Well, basically, Mom had a heart attack, and I just picked her up and moved her here. But then she got saved, so. But she's the answer to a prayer. I didn't give up on it, and I still have others I'm not giving up on. Because if I see it in my lifetime or not, I know it's going to happen because God promised. And he's not going to stop now. He's going to keep promising you and keep promising you and keep showing you and keep talking to you, man or woman. He says all flesh. Even little kids will prophesy. Isn't that awesome? The Holy Spirit of God is going to come and dwell in this place and on all of us as we start rehearsing and bringing up those dreams and bringing up those visions and the words that God has given us. And we're like, okay, this one, I need this one or this one. Yes, God, you told me this when I was 10 and it still hasn't happened. And start pulling those things up, and make them come up in your soul. Let the fan, just flame the fire and let it just come up into you and just start declaring it and start saying, I'm going to be stretched. Whatever you want me to do, I'm going to let you just stretch me as far as you can. And so be like Joseph. He didn't complain that we know of. He was persecuted, but still didn't complain and honored God and was obedient to God. And remember that with big dreams comes big blessings. With big dreams comes big things. And God has not overlooked any of us. He has seen all of us. He knows where we came from. He knows what we did. Okay? He still uses us, right? We asked God to forgive us, and we turned around and we're doing it his way. And now he's like, I don't care. If you feel inadequate, God will make you adequate. He gives gifts to men. Men that come and seek, he will give you what you need. He's not going to, we used to have a saying because we moved a lot in Africa, but it says, God will not take you where he won't take care of you, where he won't care for you. He's not going to lead you and let you starve. I don't know, you might, but where he leads you, he's going to bless you in it. Everyone has to go through stuff, and we've all been through stuff, but we need to start remembering the good things that God has promised to us, the good things that are down inside that people don't believe are ever going to happen, because they are. Amen? So how many of you guys are agreeing that you're going to start pulling up those dreams and voicing them to God and voicing them to the heavens and saying, yes, Lord, I am taking that dream. I remember that dream. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to have more dreams and more visions. Those promises you made me. They're promises. God's not a promise breaker. He's a promise keeper. Right? Okay. Well, let's stand. I know it's probably too short, huh? It's been it's been an hour and 10 minutes. Okay, awesome. I thought it was going to be really short. So I added a bunch of stuff. I want us to pray, and I want you to, you can say it out loud or you can pray about it, but Jamie, where are you going? Come back. What? No, come back. Everyone leaves when we start to pray. All right, do you have to pee? Okay, hurry and come back.